Good morning, and welcome to Liberty and Gun Rights Podcast, episode 14. Today is Friday, November the 24th, 2023. This morning, I'm joined by my friend Will Dettmering with Liberty Crack Media. Hello, Will. How you doing?
Great, and I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we had plans to go to a friend's house in Somerville, and there was only going to be like 4 or 5 of us because we didn't have anywhere else to go. And the host came down with the flu in the last minute, so she ordered a bunch of food from Cracker Barrel, and she wound up donating it to a homeless shelter.
Oh, that's
And she's going to write it off. And Katie and I wound up going to Cracker Barrel to have Thanksgiving dinner. And the guy behind us wound up getting sick and had to call the fire department and EMS. They were talking about him possibly having a heart attack. So while we're sitting there eating our food, he's losing his cookies.
You had a lot of excitement going on then for Thanksgiving.
Love the ambiance around us as I'm trying to eat. Oh, yuck.
Wow.
Anyway.
Mine was not quite as eventful as yours. I actually worked. I worked my shift of we had the only 4-hour shifts, 3 to 7 as the shifts that I work. So that's generally when most people have their families get together. So since I didn't have any family to go to or anything, I volunteered to take that shift. But I just had a quiet meal at home with the dog and the cat, and was just thankful for that, because all of my friends have had stories that may not be as colorful as yours, but have all had different adventures and so on with family, friends, going out and so on. So it was something.
Can you imagine the millions of people that were traveling by air and car yesterday and the day before?
And working at the resort, I got to see some of those tired, weary travelers stumble in. So yeah.
What resort do you work at?
Carolina Winds, up on 76th Avenue.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I worked at Walmart yesterday afternoon from 2 to 10, and the Walmart was closed in Monk's Corner, but the website said they were open. So I had a steady stream of shoppers driving into the parking lot wanting to know why they were closed. And I said, they're closed till 6 a.m. in the morning, which is Black Friday, I guess.
We are right in the middle of Black Friday. That's right.
Yep. Everybody's online on Amazon and eBay and all the different.
The economy is going to spike, which is why one of the reasons why our topic is so timely for today.
So appropriate, yes. Yes, our talking point, which I have to admit to you, I didn't really research it. I didn't even know where to start. So the talking point that we're going to kind of play around with today for our audience is analyze the economic impact of the firearms industry and discuss the economic arguments for and against gun control.
Well, I'll tell you what, it seemed like, and I did the research for both of us. So I'll be spewing crud left and right. But here's the thing. When I first got into the research, it was extremely challenging. If you put in Google, you will get all these articles and so on that come up talking about every topic concerning gun rights within our modern culture that's met with bias algorithms, promoting bias pieces, hit pieces, purely emotional and antithetical arguments on the cost of death, the cost of security, the cost of hospitalizations, etc. Not the actual real-time impact of guns, gun manufacturing, gun ownership, or ancillary gun-related products and services. So that made it real difficult to see, part of this. However, I did I did find some really good economists that unlocked that problem for me. And the
Oh,
other
nice.
interesting thing, oh yeah, and the other interesting thing is that when I was doing this, it depended on. It was funny on how the articles were going to be kind of biased and tilted to the type of numbers that they were using for instance, how many people were employed in gun manufacturing. You wouldn't
Right.
believe it. It varied by 100,000 people, depending on who they picked for their source. And the gun rights advocates would take the higher number, which is according to what money it generates, looks more accurate than the extreme low number. The low number that they picked, especially in an article from, just give me 1 second here, from Brookings Institute, had it less than 50,000 employees. So, I mean, it was astonishing in how they play with the numbers, liars figure and figures lie, type of thing.
Sure.
But just if you just type in economic impact of gun rights into a search engine, the top articles, they direct you to always have some sort of biased conclusion to it. And why? There's no real numbers to support the economic, safety, and moral benefit to society limiting the gun rights. And the numbers produced by the articles are wildly speculative. So how do we get around this problem? Well, luckily we have some top economists, and one of my favorite one is Thomas Sowell, who points out in one of his debates on that particular subject, he said, let's compare and see what economic benefits people or countries and states and cities have that have enormous gun control and limit the sales of guns and ammunition and so on. Let's see where they're getting their economic boom. And there isn't any. They can't find it. It doesn't exist. The cost of, as a matter of fact, their murder rates, their hospital rates, and hospital costs, all the things that they point out in most of their articles, are higher in those areas than they are in the places that have less control. Now, what makes this really topical, James, and this is just hilarious, is right now, it was just announced this week, they're going after Lake City Ammunition. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Lake City Ammunition,
I've
but
heard of it.
it's from the 1930s. They were the number one contractor for the U.S. government for making ammunition.
Right.
And it just so happens that they also make ammunition for the market, the regular market. And they're going after it in Congress. They've got Democrat anti-gun congressmen. They're going after them because they have numbers showing how they have assisted. They're using the word assisted in the deaths of all these people and children. I just bring out the children in the school shootings and so on, because that's where the ammunition came from. Well, the likelihood of the ammunition coming from there is probably 90%, based on the type of weapons that were used and so on. They keep using the term that they manufacture, or their specialty is to manufacture the ammunition for assault rifles. I mean, they also manufacture it for hunting rifles and for target rifles. I mean, it's ridiculous, but they're going after them really hard. And it was just this week. So if any of your listeners have a chance to just go to your Google, put in Lake City ammunitions, and they'll bring up like their company website. Go to news, and you'll see all those articles that are brought up, or go into YouTube, and they'll have these things brought up. But
Yeah, I'm gonna
see,
bring it up real quick.
they're yeah.
I got a whole bunch of Lake City ammunition plant reviews, plant jobs, plant location, cancels commercial orders.
Go to news on it on the top.
All right, news. Here, let me share my screen. Share screen.
Mass shootings across the U.S. tied to mass shootings across the U.S. This is just 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I'm at
yeah,
news.
that's New York Times. Yeah.
Lake City ammunition plant contract cancellations, rumors false. What story are we looking for?
Congress. Yeah.
White House won't deny plans to halt future excess ammo sales from plant.
Right. So that one is real interesting. What they want to do is they want Lake City to only manufacture for the U.S. government and government people and not sell to anybody else.
Right.
Which economically would not make sense for them. And I'm sure they're not giving huge discounts to the U.S. government under their contracts either.
Right.
So that I just thought was hilarious. This is Thomas Sowell writes or wants to remind us, the first lesson in economics is scarcity. There is never enough of anything to fully satisfy those who want all those things for those who want it. Security also happens to be a scarce resource. There's simply not enough boots on the ground that can guarantee all 300 million Americans will be protected at all times from all threats. In every emergency, tough decisions have to be made. From what we know about past and present, continuity of government plans, the ruling elites will be evacuated to a security bunker in some undisclosed location, while John Q. Public will be left to fend for himself. Which is part of the humor of Thomas Sowell, but there's a lot of truth to it. They were talking about a few things that also necessitate the need for that economic avenue for us to be able to buy and purchase guns. The one fellow has this article, When Seconds Count, Police Are Only Minutes Away. He points out that Americans need to understand that there's no legal obligation for the police to protect you, which is affirmed by the Supreme Court and multiple lower courts in the Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, Warren versus the District of Columbia, and then again in Lozito versus New York City. It's not common practice, but then again, there's no ways to really combat that. But getting back to economics of it, the restricting of sales for guns domestically in any way, shape, or form, whether they do it for a specific piece or for a specific type of gun, their favorite thing is to point at in their speeches, point at assault rifles. But when they actually create their bills, they have handguns, tons and tons of handguns in the bills. I mean, that's one of the things that our listeners always have to be careful. This is brought up by Thomas Massey, was stating this, that every time they go and they talk about these assault rifles and assault this and protecting then when they write the bill, they lump in and they have all these restrictions on all guns, and especially going after handguns and the things we use for personal protection.
Right.
they said if they knock off some of these, let me see where my figures are on the industry. Okay. Estimates by the National Shooting Sports Foundation says that there are 169,523 jobs in the United States involving the manufacture, distribution, and retailing of ammunition, firearms, hunting supplies, and potentially another 209,296 jobs in the supplier and ancillary industries connected with the firearm market. That's from the National Shooting Foundation 2022. Now, again, Brookings, in their gun control solution manufacturers can get behind article, said there are 47,617 people employed by the guns and ammunition manufacturing industry in the U.S. in 2022. That's a difference of 320,000 jobs between the two articles, between what Brookings cites from their article to the National Shooting Sports Foundation. The Census Bureau in 2017, more than 102,000 people were employed in the U.S. firms coded as being involved in just the manufacture of firearms, ammunition, and ordnance.
That seems like a small number considering how many manufacturers there really are. I mean, just off the top of my head, you know, you're thinking about, well, I'm thinking about firearm manufacturers, not ammunition manufacturers, but you got Smith and Wesson, you got H&K, you got who are some of the
Strom Ruger.
Right.
We even have domestic with Taurus, and yeah.
There's probably 10 or 15 firearm manufacturers in the U.S. or U.S. and abroad, I guess. So you got firearm manufacturers, and then you have ammunition manufacturers, right? So,
right.
I don't know. Those numbers seem kind of insignificant compared to maybe what the real numbers are.
Well, it's difficult to find anything that shows more than that. But I really don't. I have to be honest with you. I don't know how many. I mean, it seems like it's almost comparable to automotive manufacturing.
Right.
So it seems like the numbers are close to what they have, but I don't know. I don't think that they have. I know what keeps the numbers down in automotive manufacturing in many of the places is because of the unionization. So they don't have as many workers, but they have higher paid workers that are in a lot of these plants. I know that we call it the Great Dip in 1980s in the number that they had in the plants themselves.
So when we're talking about economic impact, analyze the economic impact of the firearms industry. Well, you know, the firearms industry is not any different than any other industry, right? I mean, they manufacture weapons, they manufacture ammunition, and so economics is talking about sales, right?
Sales and restrictions on sales, making it difficult too. Yeah.
Right.
Now here's what artificially makes firearms industry a unicorn is that they have made it many in the political realms have made it a part of a danger like smoking a cigarette or taking heroin. I mean, they're trying to make it sound like it's that
Right.
dangerous for the user, and
Right.
it really isn't. It was another article that I was reading, and they brought out a great suggestion or showing that. See if I can find that. That I guess I could just paraphrase since I'm got everything out of whack here. That if you just took the idea of you have to treat guns and ammunition this way because it is used in mass killings, and the domestic people, the people at home, can use this for mass killings. Therefore, we have to regulate every piece and part of it and try to diminish it as much as possible. Therefore, we're going to make everybody safe. But let's take the idea of a bomb. If we did the same thing and had the same thoughts about, well, if we can make bombs at home and hurt people and make great destruction, so now we've got to regulate all the chemical companies and all the agricultural companies and the agricultural byproducts companies, and all of their things, because all these things can be used to make bombs for regular home people, and that
Right.
the government should be the only ones to purchase these because they're the only ones responsible enough to not be able to hurt the public with this. Same with cutlery. Same with, I mean, and you could just go on and on and on. So that's what makes it an artificial unicorn problem that they have made. The guns and ammunition industry is the boogeyman. Now, is it really the boogeyman because they are worried about protecting children? Well, if they want to protect children, look at these statistics that where all the mass shootings and everything occur are in gun-free zones, where the more shootings occur and more killings occur with firearms are where they're mostly controlled. And so if you limit the controls on it, let the public defend themselves, keep the bad guys guessing, so to speak, they're going to bring those numbers down. They always want to say, prove it. Well, we do all the time. We keep showing them the data and the numbers. We have specific examples brought out, but it's never good enough. It's never enough to be able to prove to these people that disarming everybody is not going to be.
It doesn't fit their gun violence agenda. And the proof is okay. You don't want to harden the target. You don't want to protect the children. So, I mean, try. How many news stories are there about active shooters in police departments or in police stations, police substations? There are none, because criminals and crazy people know that if they try to go into a police station and open fire, they're going to be dead immediately. They're going to meet stiff resistance. You can't go to courthouses, you can't go to hospitals, you can't. There are lots of places that you cannot go, and those targets are hardened for a reason. And it just baffles me that our communities, instead of hardening the target, instead of locking schools down and making it very, very difficult for outsiders to get in to do anything, they just want to cry wolf, and they just want to magically get rid of the guns, get rid of the ammunition. And only the police and only the military should have access to firearms, and the assault rifle bans. And it's like I said, it baffles it really. I just don't understand the mentality. It's
No.
like our children are, and I'm speaking from an emotional standpoint here. Our children are our most precious resource. They're the
Mm-hmm.
future of our country, and
Yeah.
our teachers and our educators they're developing the minds and the hearts of these children and teaching them, hopefully, the things that they need to learn in order to be productive citizens in our society. They're future doctors, future police officers, future attorneys,
Yeah.
future nurses, future whatever, future leaders, people that are
Yeah.
going to be in Congress, writing laws, and apparently the value in that is not high enough to dictate that, hey, we need to protect that. I mean, we protect our banks.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go into any government building with a weapon. They scan people, with metal detectors.
Yeah.
It just, like I said, it just baffles me. I just don't get it.
No. And another economic thing that comes up to it, and people really don't think about it, is just like any other playing of markets and investing, is collections. And gun collections has been something that has been historically American. And investing in vintage guns can be challenging yet gratifying for a lot of people, but it's
Right.
getting more and more challenging all the time. It requires knowledge of market regulations and laws and a clear understanding of the cultural and logistical challenges of the asset of the class. For instance, when you buy your say, for instance, you go to a show, you find that musket that was something that you really had to have in your collection, and you go and you purchase it, you get all the paperwork done, everything else. Then you have the challenge of making sure that wherever you purchased it, that you have the proper way of transporting it from where you purchased it to your home. And some places in the Northeast, it's really a challenge. It's where you have to, have it locked up and then away from the cabin of the vehicle if you're driving, and you can't have the ammunition anywhere near it. It has to be locked up in a separate
Right.
compartment,
Right.
and you have to declare that you're going straight from. In some states, you have to declare that you're going straight from that location to your home without stopping, not even to urinate. I believe that might be Massachusetts. I'm not sure. It's one
New
of them
Jersey,
that's up there.
Massachusetts, Connecticut, all those
Yeah,
northeastern states.
yeah. And so, I mean, it really is quite something. They were showing how uh, that the the sellers, it got so wild that a couple of years ago, when they started talking about banning assault rifles like AR-15s and AK-47s, that collectors couldn't afford to keep them in their collection because they knew that they were so valuable that they had to sell this hot commodity now, and right now. And they were selling them out of their collections, because that's what you do. I mean, if you're a serious collector, you buy low and sell high. They
Right.
knew that eventually that some of these were going to be coming back down in prices and so on. They'd be able to get them back into the collection, or it's just too expensive to keep in the collection anyway, because they do have to evaluate their collections as part of their assets year in, year out. But they're saying more and more right now, investing in rifles, and especially those that people consider assault rifles, can be a gamble. And you could often lose money or lose the asset if you were looking to invest for the short term. And they were giving an example of some people that bought 2 or 3 of them for their collections, and the ATF showing up at their door and taking the excess of over one back with them. And these people never get it back. And there's no explanation as to why they do that. Now, there is a, there was, when they wrote to get this rule passed, the ATF made it sound like they were going to go investigate straw man purchasing. Now, if a guy is buying 45 Rugers of the same model at one time, that would probably put up, some red flags.
Yeah.
That's a little. If somebody's getting 2, maybe 3, I don't think that, and it's a rarity, it's a one-off. I don't think that would be something that would really tick the boxes. Yet we're finding out now that they've lumped it into, when you buy multiples of anything, being one shotgun, one rifle of one type, one rifle of another type, 3 different types of handguns. The ATF will show up at your house.
I'm sitting here thinking of a prominent attorney here in Charleston, in the Charleston area. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's a prominent attorney, and he's on Facebook. He's a public figure, and he is a absolute Second Amendment activist, and he is hugely patriotic, and he has Facebook live videos of him carrying his sidearm and going places that you can legally go and carry. Like I didn't realize that while the malls ban firearms, possession of firearms in the mall, the actual stores like Dillard's and other stores, retail stores that are in the mall, they do not. And I thought the mall included the stores, but apparently it doesn't. The stores have
hallways.
The stores have their own policies when it comes to concealed carry or open carry of firearms. Anyway, he's, I guess you could say, a collector of long guns. I don't want to call them assault rifles, because they're not assault rifles. I mean, they're guns, they're weapons, they're long guns, and AR-15s, AR-10s, AK-47s, anything that's a long gun that's not a handgun that you can put on your hip. In his house, he showed the progression of the vault in the middle of his house that he built with with videos of, I don't know, he's got hundreds of guns, handguns, long guns. And every time I see that on social media, that's the thought that goes through my mind is how long is it going to take before the ATF targets him and goes to his house, right? Which is, why would they? He's a law-abiding citizen. He's not an active shooter. He's not a felon. He hasn't broken any laws. But that's the world we live in,
I mean, he can make one slip up on social media, and then they can label him as a possible domestic terrorist.
Oh yeah.
And then that gives them their right to go in there. But most of the time, it's really funny. Most of the time the ATF shows up at your door, they don't have a warrant.
Right.
And it's a sticky wicket, but you have the legal right to say, I'm sorry, come back with a warrant. But
well, my thought is that I would think that the purpose of the ATF, and I'm just speculating here, I would think that the primary purpose of the ATF would be to be going after criminals that are intentionally breaking the law, intentionally breaking gun laws. I mean, it's alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, right? Firearms is only a third of their purpose. But when you hear the word ATF, what comes to your mind?
Fast and Furious.
Yeah. You think about gun confiscation. You think about uh, citizens' constitutional rights being infringed upon.
Or
Uh,
selling tons of guns to the Mexican cartels.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would think that their primary focus would be to go after the criminal element of our society, who are undermining gun laws, undermining all these different statutes that have been written to protect us citizens, right?
Absolutely. That's what you'd think from from your K through 12 civics. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it seems like progressively, or I would say it's becoming more and more common for John Q. citizen to have to worry about the ATF knocking on their door because they have more than one type of firearm of the same kind.
Yeah.
You know, you always see these when there's active shooters. They always go to their houses or go to their parents' house or they go to their apartment or the house or wherever it is they live, where they're adults or whatever. And if they have more than 5 firearms, well, they have a, what do they call them? Arsenal. This
An
person had
arsenal. Yes.
this person had 5 handguns and 25 long guns, and they had 600 rounds of ammunition. They had an arsenal. They were prepared for war. They were prepared to take everybody out. And I'm like, 600 rounds of ammunition is nothing, you know?
Well,
And,
that's the thing. And going back to the Lake City problem, if they shut down Lake City from selling the ammunition to the public, secondly, you and I know how markets work. Other gun ammunition manufacturers will just start gearing up, and since that competitor's out of the way, and start making those rounds of ammunition for the public because they know there's a demand.
Sure.
Secondly, it's going to drive the price up when there's a dearth of that. We've seen that going back and forth on it. That doesn't affect the criminal element. They're not going out plinking and practicing their skills or enjoying a sport at any point in time. They're just putting it in there and waiting to pop a cap into somebody's head. They're usually for these folks, it's more jewelry than it is useful. They're waving it around trying to be intimidating, and and by the time they actually do fire it, it's not. I mean, the problem is the innocents that get killed because these people they don't know how to aim and fire. They're just shooting indiscriminately, and people get hurt that way. Responsible gun owners would never have something like that happen. I mean, it's very rare, unless you're Dick Cheney. But yeah.
I keep hearing stories about in Washington D.C. about how our legislators they're dreaming up ways of figuring out how to ban assault rifles. Nancy Pelosi, you know, all of them, they God knows how much time they spend dreaming up ways to do that, and they're learning that it's not very easy. It hasn't been easy for them to ban assault rifles because they're getting a lot of stiff resistance. And so they're going, well, if we can't ban assault rifles, then let's go after the ammunition. Let's go after reloaders. Let's go after the individual pieces, the supplies that are needed, you know, casings, the powder.
And
I don't know anything about
here's
reloading,
another
but if they make if they make it difficult for John Q. Citizen to be able to get the pieces or the parts or the supplies that they need to make their own ammunition, it's like you said, it drives. I remember several years ago, the prices of not only the prices of ammunition, retail ammunition go up, but the price for the supplies for reloading went through the roof.
Well, here's the other dirty secret, and we're talking about economics of this, is when these people make these rules and regulations and they're doing it behind closed doors and then introducing it later, Paul Pelosi is turning around and getting this information and buying up stock in these various companies and manufacturers, knowing that the prices are going to go skyrocketing, demand's going to go up because they know there's going to be a scarcity and a run on these things, and they make a buttload of money.
Of course.
The politicians do. And so if people would look at it and say, okay, what would be a reason for them to do it? It's so they can sit there and line their pockets. And it's a disgusting thing to think about, but it's done all the time. We've seen it happen over and over again.
And they think it's just absolutely it's okay to do that.
Oh yeah. Ethics is it's something that's crazy. But just kind of wrapping this all up, I wish I could get somebody with a counter argument. But the basics is all these things will have a negative impact on the American economy and the Jane and Joe American sitting at home. All these things have a trickle down and sideways effect, going from not just from the FFLs, but going all the way down to the gun shows, to, like we were talking about, the collectors, to the sports people, to the hunters. I mean, it's just it's a trickle down cancer every time they do it, and it affects it's another tax that we're having to have unburdened on us. Now, is there a savings that comes along with it? I love to hear the other side of this. They say, well, we don't have as many people shot. They're not going to be in our hospitals, in our emergency rooms, and we don't have the burden of trying to get extra security to help these people. We don't see it. If they could show me an area that has all these regulations and so on, that have these savings, I would love to see it.
Right. Well, hospitals are businesses too, right? And so
that's true.
By and large, gunshot victims being treated in our emergency rooms, somebody's paying for that.
Yeah.
Even let's just say all the gunshot victims are indigent and unemployed and don't have any health insurance, which that's not necessarily correct, right?
That's right.
Who knows what the percentage is or isn't? So John taxpayer is paying for that care. It's coming out of our tax dollars, or it's coming out of other coffers that we're not aware of, right?
Right.
Depending on whether it's a county hospital or a private hospital. So there's a definite economic impact there. So if they lose all of that money because they don't have any more gunshot victims, how are they going to recoup that revenue stream?
Yeah. It's kind of like Bastiat's broken window pane argument. Yeah,
it's a double-edged sword on both sides.
Yeah.
So we got 5 minutes left, and I really appreciate your efforts in researching the economic impact of the firearms industry. And
it was a surprisingly fun thing to do the deep dive on. It really was.
That's good. So I'm going to share my screen here to let everybody see Liberty Crack Media. You want to give a 2-minute overview of what Liberty Crack Media is and what you're doing with it?
All right. Liberty Crack Media is it's an aggregator of all sorts of things that are liberty minded, such as lectures, music, comedy, all these things that come through art, all these things. We want to get people to have a taste of all these things, and then you can go and do a deep dive on the different creators. In here, you'll see that we have Frank Zappa talking about the Central Scrutinizer. We have Michael Heiss from the Libertarian Party talking about the Mises Caucus, the people who have kind of turned libertarians into a more focused and conservative group. Fun songs like Get Over It by the Eagles. I mean, come on, folks, let's get over it. That's kind of an anti-woke anthem. All these little things that we introduce, and then we have snippets from, James Moffat's podcasts that we'll introduce every once in a while so that people get interested and they get to log in and see you. Now, coming our way, we're going to be having shortly, probably opening up in January, will be our website, and that is where all this stuff is going to be able to be aggregated, and people can go to it and get the links and explore all these things from Liberty Crack Radio and Liberty Crack Media. Liberty Crack Radio, of course, is on an online application called Live 365. And all you have to do is type in lib or liberty, and it'll come up with our Liberty Crack Media, and you can link on it right there below. And we also hope in 2024 to have our studio built in Nashville, Tennessee. And that's where we're going to have actual people on microphones live, introducing the songs, doing the intros and the outros. And we're going to be having giveaways, prizes, and we also plan on having contests that will be going out. So if you're interested in investing in our little project, you can go to our links. And if you're interested in just trying to reach out to us to do some advertising, just go ahead and get a hold of us at Liberty Crack at Proton ME.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
You bet. We're excited. And we're excited to bring Liberty Gun Rights along with us.
Well, that's awesome too. I'm looking forward to that. Well, we're going to wrap this thing up. I've really enjoyed hearing everything that you've dug up about the economic impact of the gun industry. And to my audience, thank you for listening. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Our podcast is hosted on Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Be sure to share our podcast with your Second Amendment friends, family, and coworkers. You can contact us at Liberty Gun Rights Podcast at proton.me. That's Liberty Gun Rights Podcast at proton.me. Thank you for listening to today's episode, and goodbye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.